Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Sorry for the delay.
Not me. I was doing other stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to point out I was going to keep it secret.
Right.
But since
Hashtag blame Russ.
It's his fault, damn it.
I was working with elite prospects, and I had to bail on them. So
okay. So we will start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. So Anthony and I will be interested in this. So Theo Epstein. Let's talk about him for a minute. It's interesting because both the Phillies and the Mets would love to get him. In the old days, and that's how I'm going to phrase this, in the old days when a guy would come out and say, I'm not interested in either one of those teams, I think you always could give him money and get him there. I don't think either organization can get Theo Epstein there because I really don't think he wants that. It does seem like he wants to be more of an owner or a commissioner or some sort of special position. I don't think he wants to be a GM anymore. And he has so much money from the Cubs that I don't think either one of our teams have a chance at him, man.
It's not. There's nothing wrong with talking and seeing what his interest would be, but you do have to wonder with Epstein whether or not it's just I've climbed two massive mountains and helped two major organizations get over the top in terms of the Red Sox and the Cubs.
Right.
So long suffering. And I've helped to build those teams to that point. Do I want to do this a third time? It's not like you have to, as an executive, you have anything to prove at this point. There's nothing really left to prove. So, yeah, in that respect, if ownership is something that he's more interested in or some sort of higher position in Major League Baseball of some kind, which has great influence, I mean, listen, there's always the possibility. I mean, I'm not going to say commissioner in this case because whatever the situation is with Manfred, but I look at it. I mean, I don't know about you. I would look at Epstein and say, I think he could probably do a better job than Rob Manfred.
I'm certain he can do a better job.
A trained team of monkeys can do a better job than Rob Manfred's doing right now. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. Maybe he decides he wants to take a completely different task in life or path in life.
Yeah.
And do something different as possible. I'd love to see him GM the Phillies. He fits what, according to Jason Stark, they're looking for in their next executive. They want somebody with a lot of experience. The quote was a Joe Girardi equivalent. But I don't know if necessarily if they're going to get that in this circumstance. And I would have put my money on immediate reaction would have been when he left Chicago was the Mets to me. Yeah. Initially, I thought he was on a plane to talk to Cohen and get things done.
Yeah, he didn't come out and say it, but it's coming out through sources. And I think if it's coming out through sources, I don't think he's really trying to bargain up the position. I think when it's coming out through sources, like that's just how he feels.
And he's just it could very well just be also a case where he may just we all know in sports management that you don't really have much of a break.
Well, yeah, I got tired of going to a ballpark that smells like urine too. I mean, let's be real.
I thought it was curious timing that it came out that the Mets had requested permission to talk to the GM of the Indians, Chernoff, at the same time that Epstein had come loose. I thought that was pretty peculiar, but
I did some digging on the Chernoff thing and actually working on it in an article because I don't know much about him, but I have friends in Cleveland. He's getting a lot of credit for their good drafting and for their pitching staff post Mickey Callaway, who was their guru of pitchers, but a horrendous manager. I can't say that enough for the Mets. Looked like he lost every little thing he knew about pitching during his time with the Mets.
It's tough when you got it's tough when you got to multitask, isn't it?
Yes, it's tough when you got to multitask. That's a great way to put it. But again, I think there is something there. I do have to wonder, why would the Indians let him take a lateral move like that? But again, they just seem to be letting everybody go. So I don't know.
It depends on what their economics are, whatever their situation is in Cleveland, which probably ain't great.
Well, the other thing against Chernoff is that a lot of those pitchers were drafted by the current president and GM of the Blue Jays. I can't think of Mark Shapiro.
Yeah, Shapiro. But again, you say Mark Shapiro's name in Cleveland and they'll beat you down. They don't like him at all.
Of course they don't, because he bailed. And so I mean, I don't know. I mean, every report coming out says Epstein is, as part of any kind of agreement, wants a percentage. I don't think Cohen is going to give him.
He's not giving a percentage.
Right. And I don't think the Phillies owner
already got a partner in New York City. Like, he's not doing another one.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, and if he doesn't need the money, I mean, he'll just wait for a certain.
Again, I do wonder whether or not with the Phillies, whether or not it just depends on John Middleton's cigar sales and how that's going right now. He might want to bring him in.
Right. That's a good point.
Are they Swisher Sweets or Tiparillos, or what kind of cigars are they?
I'm not sure. I got to check to see. What
actually, they're the Philly ones with the little white tip.
Oh, God. God.
The Philly blunts.
Those gave you a stomach ache. Every time you played poker and you smoked one of those things, you were ready to puke.
All I can think of is they got a bunch of uncles around the table.
I got 3 nines.
Somebody get me a stogie.
I never smoked any of those. I tried my grandfather's cigar once and almost died.
Can I have a Miller High Life, please?
Smoking ain't my thing, man.
Actually, my grandfather would drink Old Milwaukee just to get it right.
Oh, Milwaukee. Well, not Milwaukee's best, thankfully.
No, it was Old Milwaukee. Before they called it Milwaukee's best.
Well, remember, Miller was
Schlitz in my family.
Miller was the champagne of beers, and Old Milwaukee was the champagne of beer.
Yeah, actually, so Michael Cohen's right. When he says all Cohens are related, it's really true. If you go back, the DNA is actually related, like it is. That's actually a freaky thing, but it's true.
So when Cohen dies, you're going to be asking for.
I won't get anything. I'll get 1/1,000,000th, trillionth, billionth of his money.
All right.
A wooden nickel.
Yeah.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020.
I'm Anthony Majoni, and welcome to the Off the Post radio edition of the Hockey Buzzcast.
Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, let's start with the latest news. After the show yesterday, it came out that we've been hearing about the January 1st start date. Obviously, we've been discussing the fact that the owners are going to be looking for. Well, we thought prorated salaries based on the shorter schedule, and Gary Bettman had come out and kept saying 82, 82, 82 until the last possible moment. And then we knew it came out yesterday and early this morning that they're looking around a 60-game schedule from January to maybe mid-May, a 2-month playoff, and getting the playoffs done by July 15th so they don't contrast with the Olympics on NBC. So that's all fine and good. The problem is that with a 60-game schedule and likely the season starting without fans in the stands, that the NHL is going to take a bath financially. And it's come out this morning that what they're looking for is to defer more than the 10% salary from next year, to defer more, to go to move that forward maybe 2 or 3 years so they don't have to pay right away when the revenues are way down. I want to get everybody's thought on that first before we go forward. Anthony, what do you think of that proposal?
And I said this to you before the show, this just has I'll borrow a phrase that our esteemed co-host Jan Levine used, which it has this whiff of, I don't like the situation. I'm going to take my toys and take them home. To me, it reads as a bad faith arrangement. I get the realism of the moment, but when you made this agreement initially, if I'm on the opposite side of the table, that's how it reads to me. That this was basically, to me, it feels like it's what was agreed to is just basically being chucked. Now, again, deferral is not as bad. Is not quite as bad, but still it's going to be a battle negotiating point. Yeah. The language though of canceling the season is something that really begins to I'm okay with negotiation, but when you're already potentially leaking it out there of the nuclear option.
Yeah, but who's leaking that out there though? That's the question.
I mean, that's the question.
We don't know
what we have from Nick Kyprios, what he posted.
Right.
Again, he has his connections.
Yeah,
I'm sure he does. And the question is, again, some, and he used the phrase some, are discussing that, which means that tells me that it's certainly not a majority of owners.
No.
You know, that's the key thing to me. But who said that? How much influence that small group might have is something that that has to kind of be discussed.
Well, Russ, Larry Brooks broke the story yesterday in the New York Post, and he was on Hockey Central this morning and was discussing this. And, you know, he said that really this is like it's close to what Anthony said. This is sort of in bad faith because this was sort of cooked in the books that they knew that there was a possibility of no fans being in the stands in a shortened season. That's why the Players Association got it in the agreement that there was no prorating of salaries. I mean, you have to go back to July when the deal was made, and you know that at that time Major League Baseball was talking, you know, that was the whole time when they were negotiating, and it was all prorated salaries, and they had a safety net when it came to that. I look at it as if it's deferred. I was expecting them to go to the wall on prorated salaries. Now that that's out of the question, I don't think deferral is such a bad. I know it's in bad faith, but I don't see deferral as a bad thing. At least you're getting your money.
You don't know that. Deferral is just another way of saying you're not getting it today. It's like wimpy, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday. It's like, depending on that guy who you think's paying you on Tuesday, that's the issue. And so it's not in bad faith. This is just in fancy lawyer term faith. And I think the players have a right to raise a flag there and argue this out. And I think it's going to be argued out a lot. I don't think anybody is going to cancel because I think they all are smart enough to realize if they cancel, they all lose. And that's just dumb. But I do think that there's going to be a knockdown, drag him out fight here for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, now, according to the report by Kip Rios, there is an NHLPA meeting today, I think at 4 o'clock. They said between 80 and 100 players will be on this probably it's a Zoom call. Now, I'll say this. I don't know if it was Nick or if it was another source that is reporting that the nuclear option is being bandied about. I find it very hard to believe that the NHL will throw it all away. I am sure that owners like Eugene Melnick are probably out there saying we're better off not playing the season.
Right, you're going to have certain teams that may look at it and say that we'll lose less money if we don't play.
Priorities, we know that.
Right.
But Eugene Melnick was interviewed by Bob McCown a couple days ago, and he would be one of the guys I would think would be very vocal in terms of not playing, and he was very restrained in terms of what he was saying in terms of like any kind of accusatory situation when it came to the players. I don't think that he's I think Bettman, and I said this to Kevin Allen on Friday, Bettman has to have all these owners lined up, and he always does. And I'm sure maybe things will sneak out from somebody trying to affect the players one way or the other. But in the end, I think Bettman has probably got all of his ducks in a row, and he'll get it done. I can't see the nuclear option.
No. I don't think that'll happen. I mean, again, that's just talk, and you might get some players like Chelios used to be in the old days, just basically coming out with bullshit just to try and get a rise out of the owners. There's going to be that from both sides. I mean, that's normal. But I think in the end, they will figure it out. But I also think they are going to see the same way we're looking in the news about these vaccines, and they're going to sort of bet against that. And I think that is going to be the ultimate bet. If a vaccine happens and everybody can get it by maybe the middle of February, a lot of people are vaccinated, then they could have fans in that month. And I think owners, even if they don't come out and say it, are probably talking to doctors and their friends who are doctors and people in, Canada and everywhere else and getting opinions on that. And I think the players will do the same. And I think that's where it's going to be a gamble against that. But I think ultimately the players actually have all the leverage.
Yeah,
you don't have any leverage here.
Hence why you have it leaked out that they could
Right.
We have the option of canceling the season.
That's their only thing they can do. That's it.
Right. And like I said, I mean, obviously, if I'm a player and I'm already saying I'm giving you 20% escrow, which is gone, you're not going to get it. So you're making well, actually, it's not 20%; it's 18% because it's 20% of the 90 remaining, which is they're getting 72% of the 100% of their salary. So now you're probably talking. I think the owners wanted to defer another 10 or 11%. I think it was going to be up to over 20. Right. So, but okay.
I think it's important to point out, like Funky said in the chat room, like Tampa laid off some employees. They laid off 30 employees on the business side, right? Now, if they're going to have a season in a month and a half, why would you do that? Well, that's a clear indicator that they feel like there isn't going to be much business early on. And when they feel like they could have fans back, they'll bring back those people. But now the owners are trying to save on everything.
Russ, just have to give you this. Jeff Passan is reporting Robinson Cano failed his PED test. He's suspended for the entire 21 season, and he forfeits his $24 million salary.
Fantastic. This is the best news.
Yep.
You couldn't give me a better birthday present than this.
Oh, my God. I mean,
it's like Hanukkah came early, man.
Only Russ can celebrate someone losing money through this.
Stephen Cohen is going, Hava Nagila.
I mean, this is the best news because not only was I against that trade, which, again, they still lost assets. But not only was I against that, but the fact that Cano had a little bit of a spike this year in the shortened season.
Now you know why.
Did make you raise a little bit of an eyebrow.
Wow. Sorry. I didn't
way to go to that Yankees alumni.
Yep.
What do you think? Hey, what do you think the reason they passed?
Oh, of course.
They knew it.
Oh, you betcha.
Okay. So I mean, we will see how this plays out. Though, like I said, the PA is having a meeting tonight. I'm not as ominous as I read X update here, and it was like, oh my God, it's like panic in the street. I think that they're going to play. I think it's going to get done. I think I don't think the players are not going to say to the owners, oh sure, I'll do anything you want. They're going to push back a little bit, but in the end, I think they know they're getting their money. They're eventually getting their maybe that means that the paying back of that 10% or the 20% or whatever it is.
You went through that whole thing of your retro jersey rollouts, and you're not going to have okay.
Right.
Yes. By the way, let me just get your.
From the season it never happened. Here's 31 different jerseys.
Yeah. Let me get your opinion on that quickly, Anthony, because we all panned the Flyers jersey. Even Eck thought it was trash. I thought the Leafs.
I won't call it trash.
Yeah,
I think it's if I had to rank it based on some of the ones that I've seen, it's probably somewhere in the low teens.
He didn't like the rounded shoulders coming back, and I kind of agree.
Yeah, it was round.
You talk about bringing the 80s and 90s shoulders back. Yeah. I mean, if that's your issue with it, I mean, most of the jerseys for the Flyers, there's basically been two styles of jerseys. If you're going to be going to a quote unquote retro, the wide shoulder was from the 80s and the 90s, and most of the and a percentage and a part percentage of the 2000s.
Yeah.
So I had no issue. I kind of, as I saw it initially, when I first saw it, I was, and then I saw it modeled, and it looked better modeled than when I saw it just hanging on a hanger. And I think it's okay. It's fine. Again, if I'm ranking, I haven't gone to it. The one jersey that really turned me around because I hadn't seen the whole thing to me was the reverse Nordiques. I thought the thing was going to be a train. I thought for a second that thing was going to be a train wreck. And now I look at it, the color scheme, just especially because they went white with it.
Yeah.
Had they gone maroon, that would have been a real,
Well,
yeah.
Russ and I were of the opinion that Colorado and Carolina really just robbed the previous organizations of their jerseys. And that's like, they didn't do a throwback Carolina Hurricanes jersey. They did a Hartford Whaler jersey.
Right.
And
Hartford had already, listen, Carolina had already been doing that already with the Whale.
Right. Exactly. So everybody who wants a wants a Nordiques jersey who couldn't get it. Now we'll just get this.
My question would be this: is that Hartford? I mean, Carolina still has some elements of a Hartford connection still within the organization. Am I correct? It's not completely cleared of. I mean, Forsland came down with them. Carmanos. Carmanos. Yeah, obviously.
Don't know what the result is yet.
I think Carmanos is still a minority.
There's some sort of a thin thread with Hartford. So I'm wondering again with Colorado that there's some thin threads with Quebec still there.
Sakic started in Quebec.
Yeah, I mean, there's some threads there. So, but again, I agree. This is the line from Die Hard. This thin, probably nothing.
Right.
And my point of view on the Maple Leaf jersey was the fact that you could see the emblem if you were standing on Neptune. That's how big it is.
It is a massive. It has a feeling. When I saw that one, it actually, to me, looked like it was one of those Stadium Series jerseys where they make sure the numbers and the logos you could see from the top of the stadium. So Maple Leafs jersey, I didn't mind too much. The one that I thought was the Red Wings. Sorry, Funky. I don't know what the hell the Red Wings were doing with that one.
I don't either.
I mean, what is that? A little I mean, I'm not sure if that was a Little Caesars logo. It looks like a jersey on a pizza box.
I said it looked like Underoos.
I mean, it was just not a good idea. There were so many other things. You could have gone with the striped Detroit block letter thing they did in '92. That's what
I said they should do. The Islanders one was pretty bad. The Canucks was terrible.
The Ducks was just like, listen, if you're going to go all in with a 90s extreme, look, the Ducks pretty much are able to do that. The Coyotes one, you know what? If you're gonna fly your freak flag as an organization, that's the only thing that could have been more than that would have been if the Dallas Stars whipped out the Mooterist jersey.
And I thought the Sabres one was hit.
And another thing, what the hell were the Jets thinking with that uni with the gray and the blue?
I didn't think it was that bad.
I think it's very. To me, it's so. To me, that thing was so average. You could have gone honestly with the blue and then a little bit of an ice blue, light blue. That color combination would have worked really well thematically, I think, for Winnipeg, but also a little bit of a Thrashers thing to it as well. And that would have acknowledged it. To me, the gray and the blue doesn't do it for me. So
and by the way, Funky, just in honor of me, apparently the Leafs jersey, they're light gray. They're not white.
They're definitely going light gray, because when I saw the picture of it, I thought it was just a light thing that looked like it was white, but they are going.
Mike knows his grays.
That makes me kind of that knocks it down.
Is it gray G-R-A-Y or gray G-R-E-Y?
E-Y. Anyway, all right. So the other, my favorite TV show is Grey's Anatomy. Now, no, not really. Believe me, never watched that show. Okay. The other big.
Too late. It's out there now. Everybody will misinterpret.
No, Mike's a big Equalizer guy, Ant. Nothing's better than that.
I know. Edward Woodward. I got it. Yes.
There you go, baby.
How I spend my non-Leaf watching nights.
There you go.
I mean, basically, that show is like a gateway for Barnaby Jones. But anyhow, go.
No, it was after Barnaby Jones. Oh my God!
Russ,
all right, anyway, the other big news.
He's running out of caffeine right now. He needs more caffeine for his brain right now.
It's just water.
Water. It's water.
The other big news of the day was the announcement from the ECHL that 6 teams will not be playing the 2020-21 season. It's the entire North Division: Adirondack, which is the Devils affiliate; Brampton, which is the Senators affiliate; Maine, which is the Rangers affiliate; Reading, Philadelphia; Worcester, the Islanders; and Newfoundland, the Leafs. They've all elected to avail themselves of the ECHL's COVID-19 voluntary suspension policy for the entire season. So, Russ, I looked at this, and of course I focused on the Leafs because that's who I cover. This is not good because, like, for example, they have 4 goaltenders in their, probably in their minors. When we don't know what's going to happen with expanded rosters or anything of that nature, but Freddie Anderson and Jack Campbell are the goalies at the NHL level. They have Aaron Dell, they have Michael Hutchinson, they have 2 young guys in Joseph Woll and Ian Scott. more than likely Ian Scott, since he was out all of last year, would have played in Newfoundland.
Right.
Now they've got 4 goalies to play for the Marlies in a shortened schedule. So that's going to hinder their development of their goalies and other players too, because there's going to be more players and they're going to have to circle them in and out of the lineup.
It's really becoming a big issue now for the GMs and the assistant GMs. By the way, good congrats to Mob Talk for getting his Rose Apothecary sweatshirt. It's awesome. Anyhow, the issue really is getting tough. Like, as an example, like Sean Farrell, a prospect who got drafted by the Canadians, his college said they weren't playing Harvard, so he went and he went back to Chicago, played for the Steel. Now that makes it much harder for the Steel coach. He has to put Sean Farrell in. He's going to get like 3 points a game, but that cuts down on playing time for other guys. And so this is going on everywhere. It's going on especially now in Finland, where a count from Lassie, who is with EP Ringside and Elite Prospects, said there's 33 players there now. And so recently a prospect that's in this year's draft wanted to send them there. The Barrie Colts wanted to send them there, Brant Clark, and they denied it. They said, nope, can't do it. And they were like, well, how about we have him join another team? And he loans it. And they're like, nope, we don't want all these loans, just SHL or NHL. And so now, like, how many tiers low are you going to go in Finland looking for ice time, where it's better to play than nothing? But this is where everything is at now. And so a lot of players, it's going to affect a lot of players. I feel bad for Reading, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't know what year it was. I want to say it was 2005, 6. I went to the All-Star game there. It's a nice little city. I've been to concerts there. They really do depend on their hockey there. They like hockey there. You got to remember, Jonathan Quick starred there.
Right.
And I feel bad for that city, and I'm sure these other cities are feeling it too.
Well, as part of the article, Anthony, the press release that the Growlers, the Newfoundland, the ECHL affiliate of the Leafs, the Leafs agreement with them ends at the end of in May of 2021. They don't know whether that they will affiliate with them again, because the ownership of the Growlers is trying to get ownership of the building, and if they can't get the ownership of the building, then they may not renew in Newfoundland. So everything is up in the air. And obviously, if the season had gone as normal and they had revenue coming in, this would probably not be at the forefront of the decision-making process. But this is a bad thing for all 6 of these teams who have ECHL teams and players that were to be assigned. Now, all these guys who don't have affiliations with their major league franchise, they're all free agents. And as Russ just said, all these European teams are stocked with players. They have
where do they go? Exactly. Where do they go now? There's only so many. COVID has turned this into roster musical chairs, but just about for every single hockey league that exists now. So now everybody's trying to find a spot. Everybody's trying to find an area. Like, again, we're talking about Reading. Philadelphia's got had several prospects playing there right now. I know goaltending wise, they've got right now Kirill Stamenko is currently playing in Gomel, I think, in Belarus.
Right.
Felix Sandstrom is currently playing for Brynäs in the SHL. So they have those guys there. Whether or not they keep those guys over there, they do have Alex Lyon under contract. Lyon, again, we'll see what happens. He would be. For the Flyers, he would be, again, if the NHL season happens, then Lyon ends up being, if they carry an extra goaltender, he'll be Philadelphia's number 3. But again, I do wonder for the AHL as well. I mean, this is for the ECHL, but the AHL is facing the same difficulties too, especially because there's such a concentration of teams between Wilkes-Barre. And again, I'm going to be very curious to see where things are at that point for Lehigh Valley, for Wilkes-Barre, for Hershey. Any of the New York corridor teams like Utica, Syracuse,
right?
That's a real issue, and I don't think I think it's the beginning of the wave more than anything. And I don't want to create a panic situation. And certainly, someone like Patrick Williams from HL.com and from Elite Prospects will speak to this much better than me. But I'm sure if I have a conversation with him, he would probably have the same level of concern that what's happening at the ECHL is going to be a potential wave that we'll see even at higher levels.
Yeah, and remember, the AHL doesn't start until February, and we don't know. I think they said 40 some odd game schedule. So, and we don't know whether fans will be in the buildings.
And it might be like 3 leagues. The thing is, they're so far flung now with teams. It's almost like having you're probably not going to do too much travel until.
Well, here's the other issue with the AHL. I mean, first let me address this. Mob Talk Radio says he's talking about unaffiliated clubs that are running independently. That they might not make it, without the support of the NHL clubs, whether they will just go belly up. And I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, he's like saying that the issue might be like building rent, and if they don't have fans coming in, how can they pay them? I mean, these are realistic problems.
These are definite problems. I mean, both the AHL and the ECHL. The NHL's big grand goal was always to have affiliates, and each team to have affiliates, to create a true minor league system of a AA and AAA hockey. And unfortunately, the economics of the situation with COVID right now really hurt that possibility. And we may see again, realistically, we might at some point here see a regression in terms of the number of teams that are going to be able to run, and having. Again, going back to the developmental issue of having your players splitting time in another organization, it becomes more the standard versus the exception.
Russ, this might be a precursor of what we see in the American Hockey League because, it's generally agreed right now that we're going to probably have to start the season with an all-Canadian division. Here's the problem. Toronto, their affiliation is the Marlies. It's in Toronto. Laval for the Canadians. Belleville for the Senators, and Manitoba, which is in Winnipeg, for the Jets. But then Utica for Vancouver, they're in New York.
Yep.
And Edmonton and Calgary, they're both of theirs are
California affiliates. Yep.
Right, Northern California.
Hartford for the Rangers is just as problematic in Connecticut.
Well, right, in terms of state regulation. Yeah. But the thing is, you're talking about crossing the border. So how can they get players if there's a 14-day quarantine? These teams have already said they're not going to displace their franchises in the American Hockey League
they're banking on the vaccine too, Mike. They are. I mean, that's where the AHL season is probably hanging in the balance of that vaccine, as far as having like all the teams there, and at least I don't know what, a 50-game season or something like that. That's hanging in the balance now. Mob Talk Radio said he spoke to an ECHL owner, and they're worried about even affiliated franchises. And yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, we heard that junior franchises are going to have trouble. Even if everything goes back to normal after this year, there still could be teams that drop out of some of these leagues. It would not shock me.
Yeah. Now, a couple of little updates here. I saw a note that Jokerit was going to play the Kunlun Red Star KHL. I think it was tonight. And apparently numerous players from Kunlun tested positive. So now that's the team that's in China, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so they traveled all the way from China.
No, they're not playing. Remember, this season, they're playing in Mont. No, they did not have playing.
So they didn't even travel.
I think I'm going to say that I think they're playing in Moscow. I'm not quite sure on that, but I think they're playing in Russia this season.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. That's true. Yeah. I forgot that they were reloading.
Although in reality, if you think about that, Finland versus China is about as far flung as you get under normal circumstances.
Yeah. So, but just showing that, I mean, it's not all rosy over in Europe. I mean, there are, the teams have sent players to the first and second level in Finland, in Sweden, Russia, the Czech Republic, Denmark. The DEL isn't starting.
Remember the World Junior Camp for Sweden, Finland. They were supposed to scrimmage. They canceled all of that. I do want to send condolences to Johnny Red. He said, they did everything right, and four people died, and 5 people got the virus in his family. I had someone pass away in my family, so I get it. And we're in a bad time right now, and it is affecting sports. It's gotten to the point. Sorry, even if you have money, it's still how you do it, and there almost isn't a great way to do it. I think the NFL's showing us that it's hard to do.
And this is even worse now than it was in the summer, because now we're hearing that Pfizer has got the vaccine and Moderna has got the vaccine, and we're this close to getting it, and people are dying. It's like you want the vaccine now, because obviously, it could be the savior for things. And
to give you an example, so even if you want it now, even if you believe it's going to happen now, there's 3 dates I saw, December 6th through the 8th, that the FDA has pushed aside, and one of those they're going to talk about possibly pushing ahead the vaccines, and so you have to wait just till then, just to see if it's going to be worthy or not. So,
and I saw some note that in Ontario that they've already got they've already on order have 4 million vials or 4 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine and 800,000 of the Moderna. Yeah, but they don't know when it's going to be delivered. So it's so I mean it's great to say that you got all these numbers, but when is it going to be available?
Even Pfizer has sort of walked back the keeping it in that sub-zero temperature, saying that they may be able to come out with one now that doesn't need that shortly after. So again, everybody's trying, but at the end of the day, this has become a very tough landscape to figure out in sports, and I think they're just trying to survive. End of the day, everybody's losing.
Now, Russ, I saw a note that said that more international tournaments were being canceled. I didn't know specifically which ones they were talking about, but the World Junior is still a go at this point. And Germany released their roster for the 2021 World Junior, and surprisingly, Moritz Seider was not on the roster.
So there's no real word on this, right? And I guess people are trying to find out. It's hard to find out because I guess Germany lost a big soccer game and nobody feels like picking up the phone today. They lost 6-0 or something, and apparently this is a factor. But
depends on who they lost to. If it's they lost to Cameroon
right now, because he's a soccer guy more than me, I had no clue. Right. But that's because I've been digging, and that's what I found out. But it does seem like, knowing Yzerman, that if he's doing that, then he must think Seider's playing this year and going to be in camp and going to play for the Red Wings.
Well, so, I don't know if that's possible, because remember, he's in the SHL, and the SHL said they weren't going to let those players, if they came over, they were going to let them go back.
Well, that is the thought. Maybe he has a different contract than that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's their blanket statement, but you do kind of wonder. I don't think the SHL team would have a problem with him playing in the World Juniors, because they let plenty of guys go.
Right.
So the fact that the Red Wings wouldn't want to go, I'm just giving you one example of maybe there is an out for him, and maybe that's what we don't know, and maybe that's what we'll find out. If not, I don't get it either.
Yeah. Germany lost to Spain 6-0. That's
a big loss.
Yeah.
Spain's great, though. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so
soccer analysis. Thank you.
But it's a big rivalry. Trust me, Spain versus. I mean, it's a big rivalry, and that's a big. I can understand.
A lot of beer was consumed, I'm sure.
Yeah, if it was Bosnia Herzegovina, then it might have. Then forget it. They might have shut the country down then.
Jesus. If it was Poland, they'd probably just conquer them again. Okay, now. Russ, I was listening to a podcast last night, and they were talking about all the moves in the NBA. I guess the NBA draft is tonight, correct?
It's tonight, yep.
Okay.
I'm a guy who I think has a chance to go to the 76ers. So follow my Twitter feed.
Drop that in there, Russ. That's right.
True. What do you want me to tell you? He's somewhere.
I know. I'm having fun with you. Calm down.
Yeah. But I'm not going to talk about it. Fine.
No, okay.
That's it.
One. There's the James Harden trade rumors about him getting traded. He's trying to force his way out of Houston to go to Brooklyn, to go someplace else. He doesn't want to be in Houston anymore. Supposedly, the speculation out there is the reason he wants out of Houston is because the owner is a big Trump guy, and he doesn't like his politics. So you have every right to. But the thing is,
I don't think that that's probably the reason, though.
Right, but that's what's out there, though.
I know, but I don't think that that's probably real.
but he's got like 3 years left. He's owed almost $100 million.
I think he just wants to win at this point.
And the speculation is he wants to go to Brooklyn because he's buddies with Durant. And but the talk is now that the Houston, unless they get somebody like Kyrie Irving or Kemba Walker or something like that in one of these trades, they're not going to.
Flash. Durant hasn't even played a red hot second.
I know.
Yet he could step foot on the court and
blow his Achilles, and he's done.
And that's it, and it's over.
Yeah. Now that there was.
Listen, I could walk out all of us could walk out of the house and then blow our Achilles out.
He's got a better chance of doing it than you.
Okay.
I have the best chance of everybody because I'm
woefully
out of shape right now.
Only if you're playing softball.
Yeah. Now the other thing is that this Drew Holiday trade. And the reason I'm bringing these things up is because I'm comparing.
People are wondering what is this off? Is this off the rim?
I'm bringing this up because in talking about the NBA, Bill Simmons was talking about how the NBA, it's not the jersey anymore. It's the player. Mm-hmm. Fans followed LeBron from Cleveland, became Heat fans when he went to Miami, became Cav fans when he went back to Cleveland, now are Laker fans when he's with the Lakers, and there's no loyalty to the laundry, to the uniform or to the team. Drew Holiday gets traded from New Orleans to Milwaukee. Milwaukee trades like the equivalent of 5 first-round picks. They could have traded a first-round pick all the way to 2027, apparently, in this deal. Now, this is the thing. Do people want this from the NHL? Because the NHL has a cap on how far forward you can trade first-round draft picks. I think it's 2 years. You can't trade any further than 2 years.
It's different for the NBA versus the NHL because, again, you get into roster construction, how many players are on roster. Right. In the NBA, there's ways I think that you can – and that's one of the reasons why I don't think draft picks quite have the same level of weight to it that you do in the NHL or the NFL, because you have to be able to with that many roster spots, you have to deal with that. So in the NBA, they swap picks around like it's like nobody's business. So right. It's not a big deal in that respect. So no, it's a different animal altogether, I think, in a lot of ways, and it's tough, I think, for anybody to kind of. I know it's tempting to talk about that as the two major winter sports, but
yeah,
I think that's the big difference here in terms of that is that you have to figure out more spots in that circumstance.
Now, Russ, I said this before. I think one of the things that we're going to miss out on this year is Henrik Lundqvist coming to Madison Square Garden and 20,000 Ranger fans giving him a standing ovation. I don't think a sizable portion of Manhattan and Staten Island are going to be coming to the building wearing Capitals jerseys.
No, I mean,
and that's the difference. Apparently, like Bill Simmons was talking about, like when LeBron went from Cleveland to Miami, he went to Boston Garden for the first time. Miami was playing the Celtics, and there were a bunch of fans there, and like in the thousands, wearing Heat LeBron jerseys.
Right. All right. So here's what I'll say. And there are some fan bases in the NBA that are legit in that they don't do that. Most of the time, Lakers, 76ers, Knicks are just so downtrodden. I wouldn't blame those fans if they did. Mm-hmm. Celtics. There's some that are like that are not like that, right? But there's a larger majority in that sport that are like that and do just follow the players, and fans just follow the players. And that's great. Like Anthony said, there's fewer players, so it's easier to do it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, even Adam Silver doesn't like it. And if you notice, he tries to stop it as much as he can, but he can't really stop it because these guys just talk on the side, and they basically just have these ultimatums to the team. The GMs, honestly, I mean, and Anthony may not like this because the Sixers just hired a new GM who's really good, but the role of an NBA GM isn't quite as impactful as some of these other sports because the players have most of the power. And that will not happen in the NHL. And it's not because they're trying to not have it happen. It's because those players don't have real interest in doing it. Sidney Crosby could do it. Every year he could go to a different team if he wants to win a Stanley Cup every year. But he is loyal to the team that drafted him. Right. Now, not everybody gets to stay with the one team. But you find that in the NHL, more players stay with one team than probably any other sport.
Anthony, right. your GM is really loved in China, by the way. But this is the thing. And it's like, this is where hockey fans are different. Fans of the Sabres, fans of the Leafs, if a player, for example, I'll say Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel gets traded from the Leafs to Pittsburgh. I was at the game. Phil Kessel comes back to Toronto. Now, Phil Kessel wasn't despised in Toronto. He was liked, but he comes back. He didn't force the trade to Pittsburgh. He got booed. The first game he came back.
Mm-hmm.
Dion Phaneuf was given a nice ovation, and then it was over with.
Not by the locker room guy.
Right. But Sabre players, same thing. Sabre, like there's appreciation after the first time they give him the scoreboard honor, and then he's the enemy.
Yeah,
that's the normal way.
And you can't buy a Lundqvist Capitals jersey as an example. If you want to, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, especially the reverse retro. My God, if you get that's the if I'm getting a Lundqvist jersey, I want a screaming red reverse retro.
Yeah,
it's like woo.
I don't begrudge that, but I'm just saying, me personally, like I never even bought like a Seaver White Sox jersey. Red Sox, I wouldn't even consider.
I think it's like, it depends on how beloved the player is. I do think there is a little bit of player loyalty, but I think for the most part, fans will maintain the jersey of the original player with the team. And that
I'm gonna hate Funky for bringing this up, man.
Okay, Funky. First of all, it's booed with an E, just to because I was a teacher, so it's booed with an E. Second of all, I wasn't at the game. If I was, and I was a fan at that point, I would have booed Matt Sundin, not because he was playing for Vancouver, but because he refused to waive the no trade clause, and he was a selfish bastard for doing it. So that's the reason I would have booed him.
I don't want to waive his trade clause.
Hey,
bastard!
I want it to come down to someday Michael Jello needs a kidney transplant, and he finds out that Matt Sundin is willing to give him one. Will he do it?
Not a chance in hell. He'll say, "Let that fat bastard in Buffalo die." That's what he'll say. That's what he'll say, and that's fine.
Listen, Matt Sundin was a really good player. Leave him alone.
I'm not saying he
will not leave him alone. He will not leave him alone the same way he's his Moby Dick the same way that Pumpkin Spice is yours.
But that's not a person. No, Pumpkin Spice doesn't have feelings.
Oh my God!
Okay. And by the way, I'm glad that Wawa stopped. At least they knew.
I still got 3 bags.
They're in the freezer.
Because honestly, they're getting ready to bring in the Christmas stock. You know that.
Some that don't do that. Starbucks is now lining them up. They got 15 flavors.
Creme brulee, peppermint.
I had one last night, actually.
Of course.
All right, we're gonna
an elitist.
We're gonna play to finish off the show. We're gonna play our favorite game, which is 1-year contract, PTO or nada, and that really. Right now, this is applicable because
there's a lot of guys.
There's a lot of guys, and
as Mike breaks out the Caesar scroll, here's the list. Let's get started.
It's like the opening credits for Star Wars. Episode 4, a new beginning. But if the season starts January 1, you're going to see a scramble of player. I mean, it's going to be like musical chairs in terms of them. I'll take a 1-year deal at $800,000. It's like it's going to be bargain basement. It's going to be like at the dollar store, basically. But the question is, how many of these players will be willing to take a PTO to get a chance to go to a training camp, even if they don't have a chance of signing with that team because they want to just show their wares and maybe some other team will sign them. But okay, so I'll pull out a list of 5 or 6, 7 players here and see what you think here. Let's start with Ron Hainsey. Ron Hainsey, who played 65 games with Ottawa last year, who's now 39 years old. He's part of the return to play committee. I know he's big in the PA. Maybe that's his future. Still was a dependable veteran defenseman who can play both sides. Didn't score a lot, but, was a good tutor for young guys in Ottawa. Anthony, you first. 1 year contract, PTO, or nada?
He's a pretty prideful guy. We've had this discussion before about Hainsey. I don't think he would want to have I don't know if he would want to have a go PTO. He's either going to want a 1 year deal or he'll wait it out.
Russ?
I'm going nada in the flat cap world. I think he's reached the end of the
That's
line.
it. Yeah, exactly. I think, but that's what I think. He will wait to see a team get desperate enough. They have an injury and then say, okay, here's a 1 year deal. He's not going to be going for a tryout.
No,
I think nada. I think he's going to end up retiring if he doesn't get a 1 year contract. He's going to retire. And sorry, and maybe I mentioned him the last time we did this, but he was somebody because I saw his name on the return to play committee.
Yeah, and, I think we did have this one time. I remember you mentioned this, and we kind of were in this area of conversation.
And guys wait forever to retire. Like they literally wait until after the season that he is not a chance of playing to actually announce the retirement.
All right.
Okay, let's see here. I don't think we brought up. Okay, I think this is a no-brainer, but I'll say it anyway. Andreas Athanasiou was traded from Detroit to Edmonton, failed miserably in Edmonton, was a -46 last year between the two teams. He was a restricted free agent, and they passed on the qualifying offer because I think it would have been over $3 million. He's only 25 years old. There's a lot of talent there, but it's late November, and he's still not signed.
It's twice now, exactly. The word's out on him.
Yeah, so Russ,
we could talk about talent all we want, but Russ, go ahead. You first.
Russ, 1 year contract, PTO or nada?
I think it's going to be a 1 year deal, but I think it's going to be much lower than what he was hoping.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think he's young enough that another team will take him on a 1 year prove-it contract to see if he can adjust it. That's the advantage of it being his age, that certain teams. But I will say, third go around, if things don't happen, it's gonna. I don't care what his age is. It's going to start getting real tough for him to find NHL employment.
Yes.
I mean, he was making over $3 million. He's probably going to get signed to a 1 year contract for probably like under $1 million, and that's got to be a wake up call for somebody with his talent.
Yeah,
I mean, I won't bring up Duclair.
They either have to be, or he's going to ship out, one or the other. It's just that's why I've not been a big. There's talent there, but there's something with the Athanasiou that's missing that he has to at some point either he finds it or he's going to be playing in the KHL.
I mean, he had a friend in Ken Holland, that's for sure.
Well, that's the thing. That's
the common thing. Other organizations are not going to have the patience.
He really can't go to the KHL because the KHL's stocked.
Right. I'm just saying, under normal circumstances, that would be one of the only options under normal circumstances.
Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. This guy, he's been beaten around the last couple of years. Ben Hutton played for Vancouver last year. Played for LA, 27 years old, played 65 games last year. He's big, but doesn't really do a lot.
Right.
And that's, I think, I'll go first on this one. I think somebody will give him a chance as a PTO, but I can't, because defensemen, need depth on defense, but I don't see anybody going out on a limb and giving a 1 year deal.
No, I would say in this, I would agree with you on that, Mike. I think PTO is far more likely at this point. Again, you have to have something that stands out beyond just your size. You can't, otherwise you're Chris McAllister at this point now. So it's like, that's about it. I'm sorry to Chris McAllister, obviously, but again, he was big and hit some people, but it's just he gets an out. Somebody looks and say, okay, if we need a roster spot filled, we're thin on defense here. I think he has a chance of getting to an NHL deal, but I do think it's more PTO though for him. Russ?
Yeah, I think PTO.
Okay,
that's it.
Thanks for that expansive answer. Jan Ruta, who won a Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. He's a right-hand shot defenseman. Now, they haven't re-signed him. They re-signed Shen. They brought back
I wonder if Shen was again, that's the reason why he's sitting out there. They liked what they got out of Luke Shen in that role.
Yes.
And they probably look at Ruda and it's like.
Well, the funny thing was that Ruta played, and you could say anybody could play with Hedman, but he was a right-hand shot.
Yeah.
He played with Hedman a lot. They liked the way it fit. He averaged over 15 minutes. And again, he's a right-hand shot, and he's a
right-hand shot. We got it.
Right. Well, no, I mean, you can't underestimate the fact that those are in, rare.
No, agreed. I mean, listen, Philadelphia would love to have had another right-hand shot to replace Matt Niskanen.
Right. So 1 year contract, PTO or not, Russ?
I think PTO, just because of whatever team it is, will give them more time to figure out if they want to actually spend money on them and create, even roster spots, even, the contracts now this year, everything's tight.
Yeah, agreed. That's the biggest issue there. And that, again, I go back to the fact, again, when they signed Luke Schenn, that felt like that was Ruta's spot. Right. Now if he's going to go somewhere.
Second half of Luke Schenn's career coming. I thought he was playing himself out of the league, and
it depends on where you land in the team, and if you got a lot of talent. And again, he's in a specific role. He's not expected to be the franchise. Sorry, Mike. And he's not being traded for JVR, and expectations are too high. So it worked out perfectly for him.
Well, again, remember he's a big body. Yep. He's not very mobile. He's a good seventh defenseman. He's a bottom pairing guy. Mm-hmm. He's right-handed. Again, that's a big factor. And he gives you a little bit of toughness. Would you pay Luke Schenn $4 million a year like he was being paid before? No, but at $700,000, why not?
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Okay, speaking of another $700,000 defenseman, former Ranger first-round pick Michael Del Zotto played with Anaheim last year. Used to have good offensive abilities. I'm not sure how much he's got left, but again, a veteran guy who if he signs would be a cheap guy, probably would fit in as a bottom pairing or a seventh guy. Anthony, 1 year contract, PTO or nada?
Thing is, he does have there's a little bit of something there remaining, but again, he's got to be in the right spot,
right?
To be effective. I don't know. Again, with money being tight, he may be finding the market to be a little bit difficult. I'm thinking he's probably good. I think he's going to be a PTO. If he was, I think he would have already been signed already if he was going to be in on a 1 year deal. So I'm going to say PTO for him for now. Russ. But he may get a one if he proves himself quickly. I think and he looks good early on. Then I think he could end up getting a 1 year deal.
Yeah, I remember talking to him in the press box in St. Louis during the Stanley Cup. But I think he'll get a PTO. He stays in shape. He shows his workout videos, and if a team needs a DJ for camp, he's your guy.
Yeah, he went from Anaheim, got traded to St. Louis, then went back to Anaheim. So maybe Anaheim re-signs him again. But I think PTO.
And ended there for at least me, Mike. Sorry.
It's okay. Last one, Derek Brassard. Played for the Islanders last year, 32 points in 66 games, can play the wing, can play center. Not the player that he was 2 or 3 years ago, but still a decent depth forward, yet unsigned, 32 years old. Russ, PTO, 1 year contract or nada?
1 year contract with somebody very late. He's the kind of guy you could bring in. He could do a lot of little things, and he never upsets the apple cart.
I could honestly, I'm not sure the Flyers are necessarily looking, but I know there have been some. They're looking at forward. But Philly, I could see it if they decide late on, getting close to camp, that they want to have another vet. Again, you've already shed veterans in, and you have to get an idea early on here of your bottoms, your centers and your bottom six. When right now you're projecting out for Philadelphia a player like Nolan Patrick, who by reports coming out of working with. I'm trying to remember the coach that he was working with, but looking pretty decent, and maybe he's going to be ready to go. If he looks like he's ready to go, then maybe your third line center is set. But then you still got fourth line center, and you're looking at, I don't think you're going to bring up. I think Morgan Frost are not ready. They don't want to put him on.
There's
Benneman's a winger at this. At this point. I could see the Flyers signing. I could see them signing Brassard to a 1 year deal if they feel like they need that veteran in that bottom six at center. I could see it.
I'm going to say PTO, but if he goes to a team like New Jersey or Ottawa, who's got, spaces that they might want to have a veteran in, I think he goes on a PTO just for the sake of, he's going to get the 1-year contract, but they'll just invite him. It's sort of like Mason Raymond a few years ago with the Leafs. He was a PTO, but everybody knew he was getting the 1-year contract. So I think he'll get a 1-year deal, but I think he could.
But he might start off with a PTO, and if he proves himself in short order.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, guys, great show. We will be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Anthony Mangione, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember –